Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We have small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada in spite of the obvious difference in size.
Pastor J, I want to get a tattoo.
You really
respond to me. Respond to me how you would respond to me.
The first question I would ask is why?
Controversial taboo topics.
We get so consumed by church, we forget that we have to live the life of being a Christian outside of the Sunday.
Like you say, we think going to a service makes us a Christian.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. So here we are about to hear the second time Pastor J wanted to take a tattoo.
Would have been late last year and early this year.
Oh gosh.
Hope Unfiltered podcast with Pastor J and Ren.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business, I'm not to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No.
Let's go to the last part.
Remember waking up early just to catch your favorite cartoons? WESN brings back those magical mornings with Retro Saturdays.
Thus, the Powerpuff Girls were born!
Where the young at heart relive the fun. Join us every Saturday from 8 a.m. to 12 noon, only on WESN, the content capital.
Breast cancer is the most prevalent cancer among women in Trinidad and Tobago, with an incidence rate of 37 per 100,000 population.
Definitely, I can say from when I first started, just focus on breast cancer about 3 years ago, is definitely you can see a steep incline and rise.
Yeah.
And I'm generally, I don't have data to quote it, but I think I would like to say that there are more younger patients being diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah.
And those are patients under the age of 40. I'm thinking your practice as well, I'm sure that you see and diagnose a lot more patients at a younger age.
Absolutely.
Money is something we all deal with, but how many of us truly understand it? What if you could make better decisions with your money? Decisions that secure your future, protect your family, and bring you peace of mind. I'm Darren Jacobs, and I'm here to help you make sense of your dollars. Welcome to Dollars and Cents, the show that breaks down the financial world in ways that matter to you. No jargon, no confusion, just real conversations about money, your money. So join me every Wednesday at 10 a.m. on WESN for Dollars and Cents.
I'm Sean Michael Small, and we are WESN, the Content Capital.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
Are you driven, ambitious, and ready to earn? WESN, the Content Capital, is expanding, and we're looking for dynamic media sales executives to join our team. Sell powerful advertising solutions across television, digital, and social media platforms, and help brands tell their story. If you have strong communication skills, a passion for sales, and the drive to succeed, join WESN today. Send your CV to marketing at wesncc.com or WhatsApp 68-61662 and start building your future.
WESN.
Good morning and welcome to AM Prime on WESN. I am Takia Thompson, your host for our Talk It Out Tuesday show. Now, amid growing public concerns over escalating crime and national security challenges, calls are mounting for the return of the police commissioner. Let's find out more about this in our Beyond the Headlines segment. Many citizens believe his leadership style and past strategies brought a level of control and confidence to the nation's crime fight. But in a vastly changed landscape, would his approach still work today? And how does he respond to the renewed public support for his return? Former top cop Gary Griffith joins us this morning for this discussion. Good morning, Mr. Griffiths.
Good morning.
So there's been a noticeable public push for your return as commissioner. How do you feel about that level of confidence coming from the citizens?
I am humbled, but I am so retired. Everywhere I go, I mean, if I go in the supermarket, I go to the mall, anywhere I go, I am getting that comment. I am very disappointed. Yes, it is. It gives a good feeling to know that I would have had some degree of limited success, but it means that something has gone wrong. And a good leader is one that will appreciate the fact that when you leave, there's that continued upward development of the institution that you left. And it really hurts to know that all that we would have achieved up until a few years ago, when the country felt safe, they felt that we were on top of the situation. There was the highest confidence we have ever seen in the history of the police service in our country. That it has all just diminished, not because of the police officers, but because of poor leadership, pettiness, infighting, failure to accept and embrace 21st century policing, and that bothers me. It was not difficult. All that we had to do was to continue the hundreds of different policies and so forth that would have been initiated. I remain available to provide free advice. I remain available to guide. Unfortunately, those in authority, there's some degree of, I don't know if it's intimidation, fear that I might replace them. I'm not. I have no intention. I will not. I have no intention to reapply to be commissioner. I have no intention to apply to be a minister. So to have Minister Roger Alexander and Commissioner Guevara block me on WhatsApp, refuse to speak to me, every other statement made by this commissioner is to attack me. It is disappointing.
Mm-hmm. Understood, but and can you say, from your perspective, what are the biggest gaps in Trinidad and Tobago's current national security's approach towards things?
Yeah, sure. There's a total ignorance and understanding 21st century policing, and the reason for it is that, remember, the present commissioner, he was middle management, so he has absolutely no knowledge of the technology, the systems, the rhythm, the programs that you have available worldwide. Failure for him to understand that, it means that he will just go with the usual thing. If the police arrest somebody for stealing a hop's bread, the release is it's an intelligence-driven operation. Everything, because that is what, remember, he spent 26 of 27 years in the special branch, so he knows one aspect. He knows very little about operations, tactics, technology, strategy, community policing, within public trust and confidence, ComStat. He doesn't. He knows everything is special branch, so that's intelligence. So, I mean, if the police football team beat Jablete tomorrow, they'll say it was an intelligence-driven football game that caused the success. Everything it's a one-word thing. The whole thing is intelligence-driven, and that is not so. Because of that, there would be shortcomings. It doesn't mean that he would fail. What requires, sometimes as a leader, you need to appreciate the fact that you can and should be at times be prepared to be the dumbest person in the room. But he lacks a lot of the intellectual ability to be a commissioner, because if you're middle management and you weren't succeeding in middle management, you weren't topping exams in middle management for promotion, and then you become commissioner, it's like you're a clerk in an office, in a building, in a company, and then they make you the CEO. The best thing for you to do is to absorb and embrace the views and ideas of others who may have some degree of experience. He doesn't want to do that. And the same thing has happened now with the Minister of Homeland Security. Likewise, he was middle management. He was never in the executive of the police service. He spent his last 10 years in the police service being on a talk show. So he does not have that capacity to understand the things that would be required for 21st century policing, predictive policing, intelligence-driven policing, as much as they say it. And there lies the problem. So, and again, because of that, a lot of things that would have been established, it is not being done. And because of that, you would see the shortfall. So it doesn't have to do anything with the Prime Minister. As the chair of the National Security Council, it is not her responsibility to come up with policies or programs. But note, in the last year, 1 full year has passed with these two persons in office, and there's not been one new piece of technology, one new system, one new unit, one new program, nothing at all. And it is because of that the Prime Minister was left with no choice other than to call a state of emergency, because there's been nothing being implemented. Let me quickly add, when I was as Commissioner of Police, every Wednesday I will do a press conference, and there'll be more media there than what we would have seen for the last few years with the Office of the Prime Minister, the post-cabinet conference, because the media was looking forward to a new system, new unit, new technology. So every week I'll be coming with a rapid response unit, an emergency response patrol, GPS tracking on vehicles, gender-based violence unit, body cameras, tasers, pepper spray, online reporting, SOS, so gender-based violence unit, the social media monitoring unit, the police marine branch, special operation response team. Every week was a new unit, a new system, a new program, new technology. And that is where the country started seeing things are happening, things are changing. We are trying to put systems to measure police performance, make them accountable. And with that, it caused public confidence to move from 14% to 60%. Now it is down to less than 8%. So all of the rah-rah-rah about, oh, the crime is going down, the commissioner just doesn't get it. And the audacity and the arrogance for him to state that citizens are obsessed with crime. How dare you? It is like you're pointing fingers at the citizens and saying you're fast and out of place to be complaining because crime is going down. That is how they feel. They are concerned because an SOE could never be an avenue that will make you feel safe. And he just doesn't get it, and he just doesn't want to listen.
Yeah. Now, crime has evolved in recent years, and you know, we've all seen it, but in your experience or from your perspective, when you see things, how different is the landscape from when you would have been in office compared to now that you're just, you know, giving advice and looking on to what's happening around?
You know, I have shifted. I would have shifted from 17 years in a military commission officer in the Defense Force, a national security advisor, to a security minister, to a police commissioner.
Yeah.
And as you go along, the biggest problem that I would have always seen is continuity. And when I speak about that, since 2006, the gangs started assembling themselves, having a structure, having a system, and they continue to build and develop their intelligence base, their teamwork, their understanding, and they keep building. But with us, every time a government changes, a minister changes, a police commissioner changes, you shut down and dismantle. So whereas the criminal elements continue to build their capacity, we self-destruct. So in 2010, we will say, let's remove the blimp, let's remove the Special Anti-Crime Unit, let's remove the OPVs. In 2015, after I left as minister and the People's Partnership left, the PNM government shut down and dismantled the NOC. It became irrelevant. The National Security Special Operation Group, the Emergency Response Patrol, the Community Policing, the Highway Patrol. And then after I left as Commissioner of Police, as I said, all of the things, the 100+ things. And you're seeing the debate with myself and the Commissioner. I put in 1,000 body cameras, you remove it, and then mislead the country to say that they weren't effective, when these are the same body cameras used by most police departments in the world. You type Axon or GTEC and you'll see they were used. So he talked total nonsense. And 5 years later, you have not been able to acquire one body camera. The same thing, I acquired tasers to prevent, to ensure minimum use of force. Every officer had access to a taser on operation or patrol. 5 years later, they refused to implement tasers. So somebody has a cutlass, police will now shoot you. So, and all of these different things that made people feel safe, that reduce crime as well, they have removed it. And that is the problem. Because of small-mindedness, well, he put that, it's we time now, government change, ministers change, different style. Instead of continuing what was there and build on that capacity, we don't. We self-destruct, we remove out of pettiness, small-mindedness, politics, intimidation, whilst the criminal elements continue to build to the point that they are now a very powerful unit working in that dark underworld. And even I actually had the dark web. We were able to pinpoint and ascertain what criminals were doing even before they did it. We knew their plans. We will be able to intercept vehicles that were about to put hits on prison officers and so forth. That has all been removed. And it is just simply because it's my time now. I'm the new commissioner. I'm the new minister. This is the new government. We don't want to do what it is you did in the past. That has always been the downfall, which is really self-sabotage.
Mm-hmm. Now, some critics argue that crime requires long-term structural solutions and not just a leadership change. How do you respond to that?
It's not, sorry, say again?
So
I missed that.
Critics would argue that crime requires long-term structural solutions, not just leadership change. How would you respond to that?
Yeah, well, exactly as I just said. Mm-hmm. But without the leaders having the capacity to understand the technology, systems, units, programs to build capacity and to build morale within the police service or different arms of the protective services, it will not happen. So you need good leadership. Leadership is, and that's why you would have seen every time it is a government changes, a minister of security changes, or a commissioner will change, you will see a difference in crime. So you'll see an increase or a decrease depending on the individual or the government. Every time the PNM has been in office, crime has gone up. Every time the UNC gets in office, crime will go down. When I became commissioner, public trust went up. When I left, public trust went down. So you will see that. When I was the Minister of National Security, was the highest reduction in serious crime in 31 years. As soon as I left, when Minister Dillon took over after 2 years, it was the highest spike we had in crime. So it shows that individuals have a big part to play, or organizations, be it government, be it ministers, be it prime ministers as chair of the council, or commissioners. But that has to continue. And you need to build that, and we need to have some template to agree upon that when you leave office, whether you leave office as commissioner, minister, let us continue what is there. And that's what I did as a minister. I looked at the value of the Patrick Manning system, the PNM's Patrick Manning. There was a lot that they were doing, be it sometimes outdated. But so instead of Goodyear blimps, I was getting drones. Welcome to the 21st century. But at least they were doing something. Instead of the OPVs, I was able to get 12 government vessels for 1.2 billion less. They had the special anti-crime unit. I formed the special operation response team, because you don't just throw away everything that the PNM did. But the PNM did that, the wrongly PNM in 2015, that's exactly what they did. They removed everything that the People's Partnership Administration did. And similar to myself as Commissioner McDonald Jacob, there's something that they are now coming up with about grid policing. This is exactly what I had, the grid policing, and so have the audacity of Guerrero stating that this is the first. You can't misinform the public. The whole public, you will all be aware of that emergency response patrol. You're seeing the yellow and blue police vehicles, 100 vehicles throughout the country with GPS tracking. And that ensured a less than 5-minute response, because with GPS tracking, we were monitoring the police vehicles. Guerrero decides to have this launch yesterday and says it's the first that they're doing. And he brings in the same McDonald Jacob who shut down the same emergency response patrol, the same GPS tracking on police vehicles, the same thing to lock down the country with a grid. So the same thing that I did, McDonald Jacob removed, and now Guerrero is bringing McDonald Jacob to try to see if they could come to do exactly what was done that was shut down 5 years ago. It is sheer madness.
Yeah. Now, I understand that you mentioned earlier you have no intention of returning, but if you were to return, what would be your immediate priorities within the first, let's say, 90 days?
Well, yeah, and that, we need it's just to reignite, to reboot. The same systems that would have been there that I implemented after my first few months in office that transformed the police service, it is there. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. So the systems that are there to ensure accountability of the police service would be required. Right now, there's very little faith and trust in the police service. And this is not in any way to discredit the police officers. 6,500 of the 7,000 are still there that were under my watch as Commissioner of Police. That police service then, there was, as I said, there was a 59 to 60% public trust and confidence. Now it's 8%. So it is the same police officers. It can't be the fault of the police officers. It's the fault of the leadership. So the first thing that must be done is to show to the public, we are going to put back systems in place to make you trust the police. And that's what I put things like polygraph testing, drug testing, the 482 Gary. So if at any time a police officer goes rogue or disrespects a citizen, you're in my office 6 o'clock next morning. That totally cause every police officer not to be abusive, not to be arrogant, not to be ignorant on the streets, not to be able to try to bribe persons, not to be able to intimidate others. So those are the things that are required, trying to get the police complaint authority to have the type of authority they require. That is, now they're being totally sidelined, making sure that the public is aware that any police officer will ensure that none of them will be above the law, put heavy training, public service, customer service training, and those things will now make the public now give information to the police so that the police will now be able to act. Two total contrasts. There was a shooting when I was commissioner in Mova. The police riddled a car. Immediately, all 18 was suspended by myself, and because that is what is required. We had the identical situation a few weeks ago, or months ago, and this commissioner sees that and says, I see no need to take any action on these officers. And this was endorsed by the Police Welfare Association. When that happens, which citizen wants to support a police service like that? And that is what I would have done. I would have reignited, reboot the units, the systems, the programs, the technology that transform the police service. The technology is there. There were 12 consecutive kidnappings. We were able to find the kidnappers, kick down the doors, lock their necks, handcuff them, and rescue the victims from the Natalie Paul when they go up. That has now stopped. And the kidnapping, and because of that, it put an end to kidnapping. Because of the rapid response, it put an end to home invasion, extortion. Now, all of these things have returned. And so when it is that the government states, oh yes, we are doing well because crime is going on. Crime is going on because you call an SOE that gives you the authority to arrest, incarcerate every single possible shooter, assassin, drug lord, kidnapper. So when you incarcerate them, then they can't commit the crime, so crime will go down. But it doesn't make the citizens feel safe. My take has always been I do not see the SOE as a crime fighting tool. If had I been in a position to give advice, I would have immediately reignited what is required and use operational procedures, put systems to measure performance, make police accountable, utilize all arms of the protective services, utilize a $500 million National Operations Center that is being totally ignored. And now poor McDonald Jacob, poor guy, he is clueless just like Rivero, and they're trying to use the National Operations Center as a police operation unit. It is not a POC, it is not a police operation center, it is a national operation center. That is the engine room that we spent $500 million for, that can be able to deal with all, getting all intelligence together, deal with monitoring and being in charge of all major events, natural and man-made disasters, functions, looking at traffic congestion. That is what an NOC is about. The NOC is supposed to be used for several different arms of ministries, not the police. But because Roger Alexander has been pigeonholed into one thing alone he could see and see alone, which is policing, you have now changed the National Operations Center to a Police Operations Center. And I guess it's because of persons who hold positions of authority. I would have transformed it into expanding their vision to understand 21st century policing.
Yeah. Now, Mr. Griffith, for citizens who, are still wondering, would you accept the position, again, if it's formally offered to you?
No, I certainly would not give an answer to something that would not happen. Looking at what has happened, there's been absolutely no communication whatsoever with the government, even to take free advice. Looking at Guerrero, he has sought advice from two persons before and after me, one with public trust at 14% in Stephen Williams and one with public trust at 10% with McDonald Jacob. I recall when people said that there was a massive reduction in crime with Gary Griffith because of COVID. But when I left, 2 months later, in October, November 2021, when we had the same COVID, the same public health regulations under McDonald Jacob, it was the highest and third highest number of murders in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. So I guess the criminals missed that memo when these persons tried to water down what was actually achieved. So Guerrero is looking at persons who he is not intimidated by. So that is why he's getting advice from Stephen Williams and Guerrero and McDonald Jacob. So there's absolutely no intention that it is not going to happen, not because of them not understanding that I could be of value giving free advice, but just intimidation. There's for a commissioner to be spending time every time is about Gary Griffith and firearms. I mean, the firearm thing is a perfect example. There's a contrast in his style to mine. He spends more time being worried about law-abiding citizens having legal firearms than the criminal elements. Every time he speaks is to find an excuse not to give law-abiding citizens firearms. 99.9% of criminal activities involving firearms have been by illegal firearms. More law enforcement officials have had negligent discharges than persons with FULs. More law enforcement officials have lost firearms than citizens with firearms. More law enforcement officials have been involved in criminal activity with firearms than citizens. But yet Guerrero continues to pelt words at me for doing the right thing. I issued more firearms to women than all commissioners before and after me in 20 years. Because to them, women must not have firearms. Law enforcement officers must not have their private firearm to protect themselves when they go home. Those who retired as well. I did what was required, and he has a problem with that. So he has a problem with body cameras. I provided 1,000. He misled the country and said they weren't good. He said that they could be turned on and turned off. That shows when it is you're in special branch and an office with no window, that all body cameras must be turned on and turned off. But he did a press conference to justify why not using the 1,000 I acquired. So this here will show that we are not going in the right direction, but I am always willing, my phone, I am available to give free advice anytime required. But it would not happen because we have two persons who hold those positions who in middle management that have seemed to be very intimidated by having me anywhere around. So to those who would continue to ask for my reinstatement, I do welcome it. I thank you for it, for appreciating and recognizing what I would have achieved. I am always willing to give the government free advice because this is the government, this is the state, and every citizen should be hoping that a government would succeed. I will do everything to assist them in succeeding, but I can't help you if you don't want to help yourself, if you don't want to accept that, listen, let me just give him a call and see what it is he did right. If you spend all your time bad talking me, attacking me, it's not helping. It just causes people to realize you seem to be rather small-minded.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith, for coming on this morning and sharing your perspective on such touching and important conversations that we normally have. We are about to take a short break, and when we come back, we have more engaging conversations, so stick around for it.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Breast cancer is the most prevalent cancer among women in Trinidad and Tobago, with an incidence rate of 37 per 100,000 population.
Definitely, I can say from when I first started just focus on breast cancer about 3 years ago, it's definitely you can see a steep incline and rise.
Yep.
And I'm generally, I don't have data to quote it, but I think I would like to say that there are more younger patients being diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah.
And those are patients under the age of 40. I'm thinking your practice as well, I'm sure that you see and diagnose a lot more patients at a younger age.
Absolutely.
Are you driven, ambitious, and ready to earn? WESN, the content capital, is expanding, and we're looking for dynamic media sales executives to join our team. Sell powerful advertising solutions across television, digital, and social media platforms, and help brands tell their story. If you have strong communication skills, a passion for sales, and the drive to succeed, join WESN today. Send your CV to marketing@wsncc.com or WhatsApp 6861662 and start building your future.
Hi, I am Emiliana Beechan, and I am a mental health and conflict resolution consultant. Welcome to Mind Matters, the show where we explore the intricate world of mental health and the art of conflict resolution. Join us as we hear from mental health professionals, conflict resolution experts, and everyday people who have transformed their lives through understanding and communication. Mind Matters, WESN Content Capital.
The home of Caribbean content is growing, and we welcome you to be a part of the #1 platform for young personalities who are driven to make a positive impact in society. As we continue to reach every corner of Trinidad and Tobago through our daily broadcasts, our social media pages, or through our 75+ digital billboards across the nation, contact us to learn about our competitive rates via marketing at wesncc.com or call us at 628-5835. WESN Content Capital, television with a difference.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
In this, now you don't need to register nothing. You don't need. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
They believe we defend criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. The distance from where we should be in the world in going forward on our commitments with climate change.
The effects of climate change that cannot be accounted for. It's called loss and damage, and we're seeing loss and damage happening so much more in this decade and the previous decade.
The principal term there was this question of the correspondent banking issues.
That is why we're trying to build capacity with this country here, Trinidad and Tobago, and other countries in the region. Man is not showing any signs of stopping or even slowing down. More than half of the forest in Trinidad is already gone.
All the plants and all the animals and all of the nice clean water and fresh air and everything had to be on this planet for humanity to have a chance.
We are a small change when it comes to countries that can take decisions, and when they speak, the world listens.
The General Assembly is a very democratic forum. And Trinidad and Tobago has the same vote as Canada, in spite of the obvious difference in size.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lips?
That's the business. I'm nothing to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of the
not no.
Let's go to the last part.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, The Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378 or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at some international news. Cole Allen, the suspect in the shooting at the White House Correspondents' Association dinner on Saturday night, made a brief first court appearance on Monday to face charges, including attempted assassination of the president. Allen, 31, walked in wearing a blue jumpsuit and took his seat at the defense table. The Torrance native faced 3 felony counts of attempted assassination of the President of the United States, transportation of firearm and ammunition over state lines with the intent to commit a felony, and discharge of firearm during a crime of violence. Take a look at this.
We do have breaking news now at 11:30. The suspected gunman in an attack at the White House Correspondents' Dinner just made his first court appearance since his arrest on Saturday. New details from inside that hearing and the felony charges he now faces. You're watching Eyewitness News at 11:30. We're live on ABC 7, Hulu, and wherever you stream. I'm Philip Palmer.
And I'm Colleen Sullivan. The suspect, Cole Allen, now facing 3 felony counts of attempted assassination of the president. Allen walked into court wearing a blue jumpsuit before taking his seat. He will be charged with 2 counts of using a firearm during a crime of violence and 1 count of assault on an officer using a dangerous weapon.
ABC's Olivia Rubin is live in Washington, D.C. with some of the details. These are breaking details, including a possible motive. Olivia?
Philip, good afternoon. This would appear to be the 3rd attempt on President Trump's life in just 2 years, and he said he wasn't afraid and is praising law enforcement for stopping the suspect. But still, there are so many questions here, including how the suspect was able to get those weapons inside the hotel in the first place.
Today, the man accused of storming the White House Correspondents' Dinner armed with 2 guns and a knife, set to make his first court appearance and face federal charges. Law enforcement identifying the suspect as 31-year-old Cole Thomas Allen. President Trump, Vice President Vance, multiple cabinet members, and thousands of journalists inside the ballroom at the Washington Hilton Saturday night when police say Allen ran past a security checkpoint. The president posting this video of the alleged suspect. Police say Allen shot a security service member before agents took him into custody. Trump and the First Lady on stage when gunshots rang out, soon rushed out by Secret Service. Trump recounting that moment on CBS this weekend.
And they said, please go down to the floor, please go down to the floor. So I dropped to the floor, so did the First Lady.
And praising law enforcement for acting quickly. Authorities say Allen booked a room at the hotel and traveled by train from California. Saturday night, they believe Allen used a stairwell out of public view to get close to that ballroom downstairs. And in a message sent to his family just before the attack, sources say Allen described himself as a, quote, friendly federal assassin, describing grievances against the Trump administration, saying he planned to target officials, prioritizing them from highest ranking to lowest.
We are actively combing through all the evidence that we've collected and going to continue to do that today and in the coming days and weeks.
And now a Secret Service after-action review examining the security and possible lapses is already underway here. That's according to an official briefed on the internal procedures at the agency. This will go step by step through the security planning and deployment to see if there were any lapses here. Guys.
Now, Olivia, you were in the ballroom when the shooting happened. We're used to covering these events. Now, did you hear the shots, and then what did you do once you heard what was happening?
Certainly we cover this all the time, but it's another thing to experience it. Certainly I did hear the gunshots ring out. I actually happened to be standing at my seat at the time, so I was facing sort of that main door area, heard multiple loud bangs, which we couldn't confirm in the moment were shots, but certainly sounded like it. And from then on is when we sort of saw this massive law enforcement response, Secret Service running down the center of that room, trying to get to President Trump, get to the other officials that were in the room, like Secretary Kennedy, Secretary Hegseth, Stephen Miller, all part of the Trump administration. And it was chaos, really, to get them out of there, but also for everyone in the room immediately hitting the ground, hiding under tables, hiding under chairs, but also trying to figure out what's going on, trying to report out the situation. But it is so striking to see sort of the confusion that can spread in that moment, not knowing exactly what you're hearing, not knowing if there's more to come, but of course, thankful that in that moment, everyone was able to get out uninjured.
Absolutely. So thankful for that. Okay, Olivia Rubin, thank you so much for your live report from Washington and your insights from that night. Stay with Eyewitness News for the latest on the shooting at the White House Correspondents' Dinner and the suspected shooter's local ties. We'll also push out any major updates to our ABC 7.
Aaron, it looks like we now know what Cole Allen will face with regard to charges. They have just been announced in court. Do you want to take it from here?
Cole Allen is appearing in court right now in Washington, D.C. in a blue jumpsuit seated with his public defenders, so taxpayers are paying for his defense at the moment, and he is charged with 3 felony counts. The first, attempting to assassinate the President of the United States. The second, transportation of a firearm and ammunition over state lines with the intent to commit a felony, and discharge of a firearm during a crime of violence. So right away, these charges tell us that federal prosecutors believe Allen's target was President Trump. It also is an indication, and sources have told us this before, Kira, that Allen traveled from California by train to Washington, D.C. with a stop in Chicago, traveling with his weapons, the shotgun, the handgun, and several knives.
All right, and Aaron, it looks like the first count of attempting to assassinate the president carries a maximum sentence of life in prison if he's convicted of this charge, right?
And so if he is convicted, he's not in all likelihood going anywhere, Kira. And we have heard the rhetoric from Trump administration officials in the immediate aftermath of what happened at the Washington Hilton. And you could tell they were feeling like he deserved these very serious, grave charges commensurate with the act he allegedly committed in targeting the room that was filled with the succession, the president, the succession of the dignitaries, journalists, and he had written, sources told ABC News, extensively his criticism of the Trump administration, of some journalists and the Washington elite for all being together in that room. And apparently this well-educated mechanical engineer who was a teacher and tutor for a time, Kira, allegedly felt he had no choice but to board that train with a collection of weapons and try and attack that gathering on Saturday night.
And no doubt, Catherine, these written notes, this so-called manifesto, it's been referred to as things that he told family members, all pretty strong evidence here.
Yeah, it would seem that that is all pretty strong evidence. Obviously, prosecutors will make their case in court, and he will have his defense. They need to indict at least 60 days. They would need to return an indictment at least 60 days following these charges. But again, this was a short court appearance. I can imagine that we will hear more, Kira, about where this investigation stands during a press conference with the acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, the FBI Director Kash Patel, the U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro. They have made very clear that this is still an active and ongoing investigation, so I can imagine that just under an hour from now we will hear at least more of what they've gathered so far.
All right, Karen, Catherine, and Aaron, all thank you so much. Let's continue the conversation now with our contributor and former FBI agent, Brad Garrett. Nice to have you here on set, Brad. Let's go ahead and pick up from where the investigation goes from here. The FBI director says he's working on finding out how close Allen was to the ballroom exactly, and more details of how he worked his way down the stairwell, had the weapons with him, just taking into what the FBI is looking at. What more will they be examining, and what will the FBI do with that information?
Okay, so obviously you have to figure out how he got there. We've talked about that. The notes that he's written, the acquisition of the weapons, and then he gets to the hotel, books it apparently in advance, and then I'm going to guess that he then started doing surveillance in the hotel. How do I get to this ballroom without being detected?
It was 20 years, and the third charge was 10 years maximum penalty. So the process has started for this case that has shaken the nation's capital. And I think the other thing that was unusual for a hearing like this was pretty routine. Courtroom was packed with media and other people. The U.S. attorney was there, which is also kind of unusual for a case like this, sitting in the courtroom. And we're expecting a press conference involving the U.S. Attorney, FBI Director Prakash Patel, and the Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche coming up shortly.
Control.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1, find the style number on the tag. Step 2, match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3, search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
FanZone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas, and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Welcome back. In Trinidad and Tobago, as diabetes continues to affect thousands of people, we address the misinformation surrounding the medical condition in our Ask the Expert segment. From diet restrictions to causes and treatments, many still rely on myths that can do more harm than good. Today, we speak with President of the Trinidad and Tobago Diabetes Association, Andrew Dano, to separate facts from fiction and bring clarity to one of the country's most pressing health issues. Good morning, Mr. Dano.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
I'm good, and you?
I'm well.
Now, firstly, before we get into the myths and everything, what exactly is diabetes?
So diabetes is a lot of things, but it could be grouped together because it's a group of diseases. It's essentially a group of diseases which prevent the body from dealing with sugar as it normally does. So when I say deal with sugar, it means that your body will normally control your blood sugar within a range. And if it is that there are certain things that happen to the body, and we're going to go through those things in a while,
yes,
your blood sugar tends to go up or down or outside of that range. So basically, your body would normally control your blood sugar within a range, and when it goes up over or below the range, that's really when we talk about having diabetes. So it's not just having high blood sugar all of the time, because it often is characterized by having very low blood sugar sometime as well. So that's something that we need to talk about.
Yeah. Now, diving into what are some of the myths that you would have come across over your past years or encounter in the nation so far?
Yeah. So there are quite a lot of myths. And I mean, the myths will stem because a lot of people will rely on non-traditional sources of information. So, you know, pieces of information passed down from one to the other. And then, of course, now we have the preponderance of social media and having information readily available, however, not credible. But of course, for people who may be first exposed to technology like this, things that they see seem credible to them. So there are quite a lot of myths. I mean, there are myths dealing with medication, there are myths dealing with supplements, there are myths dealing with how diabetes itself progresses. I think one of the main myths people would often think about for diabetes is what causes diabetes. And a lot of people think that diabetes is caused by sugar. And if you eat too much sugar, then you're going to get diabetes. And that's not necessarily correct, because there are a lot of other things at play there. So definitely, if you have too much sugar or any food overall, too much of any food, you're going to gain weight. And gaining weight is really the #1 cause of type 2 diabetes. Because of course, there are many, many types of diabetes. Yeah. There are some types of diabetes that they really can't do anything at all about it. But type 2 diabetes being the most common of them, about 95% to 90% of persons who have diabetes is type 2, is really when we talk about, you know, excess weight and so on. But as I said, sugar does not cause diabetes. So you could eat sugar. Once you burn off that sugar, once it is that you use the energy that you put into the body, it's not going to cause side effects or complications. So definitely, sugar doesn't cause diabetes. So that's one of the main myths. I mean, there are many others, and we could discuss it. And there are lots of myths when it comes to the types of diabetes as well, because for many persons, in Trinidad, we're not too sure, many persons out there not too sure what exactly is type 1 and type 2. Yeah. And some people think that, you know, you could progress from one to the other, or one is the bad one is the good one is the one that makes you look dry up, one is the one that makes you look big. And I mean, there are lots of myths around that. When we really need to understand that there are two separate diseases. As I started off saying, diabetes is a group of diseases, many, many forms, many, many types that all have different causes. So type 1 diabetes is caused by an autoimmune condition, which simply means that for some reason that we are not entirely sure of as yet, your body is triggered, or your immune system is triggered to think that the pancreatic cells, the cells that make your insulin, are foreign cells. Your body then destroys those cells, and therefore you cannot create insulin. Now, this often happens very early in life, and some people, another myth is, of course, people say, well, a child is born with diabetes, and really, we don't really see instances where they actually come out of the womb with diabetes. At a very young age, it can be triggered as young as a few months old, and we've had these types of children in Trinidad as well, very young, developing type 1 diabetes. And again, the trigger could be environmental, the trigger could be genetic. Well, the genetic would be a risk, but I mean, trigger could be a virus. The trigger could be something in the atmosphere. And again, we're not entirely sure, but we are making strides now to detect it earlier. We are making strides now to actually prevent it from happening if it is detected early enough for a period of time. And we are now making strides towards a cure for type 1 diabetes, and that's type 1. Now again, as I said, type 2 diabetes is different. This is the type most people are going to have. Right. And type 2 diabetes is the form where, you know, it really is characterized by insulin resistance, which means that the body is still making insulin. It's just that your cells aren't responding to it as they should. And there are many, many reasons for this. One of the most common reasons would be excess weight, so excess fat. And lots of mechanisms we could go into there, but that's really the primary cause. And some people think that, you know, when you're taking insulin, that's type 1. But people with type 2 diabetes take insulin as well. Mm-hmm. So the treatment may be similar, as in insulin is actually necessary for life for type 1. All type 1 people with diabetes need insulin. but some people with type 2 will need insulin. So it's a little different. So again, there are lots of other things we could discuss, some myths around diabetes, and we could go into more detail, and I know you're going to ask me specific things about it, and we can discuss that.
Yes. Now, you mentioned that sugar is definitely not the cause for diabetes, but a common belief is that persons who currently have diabetes must avoid sugar at all costs. Now, how accurate is this?
Yeah. So this is important, and again, many persons either are told by, and I would say even some doctors and nurses tell them, because it's easier to tell them that than to sit down with them for an hour and explain to them how to actually have a proper diet.
Yeah.
And this is where nutritionists and registered dietitians come in, and I would advocate for all persons living with diabetes to have consultations with these professionals, because quite simply, if you go to a public health center, there are hundreds of people that are going to be there on that day, and doctors and nurses only have so much time with you. You really need to see these professionals to be able to get that dietary advice. Now, in terms of sugar, well, until people not with diabetes should not have sugar, that isn't necessarily true. It is true, however, that you should reduce the sugar consumption if you are living with diabetes, because, again, your body isn't able to deal with sugar as well. So there are lots of strategies that we will tell you to put in place, one of which being, if it is that you're having sugar, you want to have less sugar per sitting, so, a lower amount of sugar. You want to have, of course, and again, a lot of people think sugar is what raises your blood sugar, but the primary source of where your blood sugar is raised is really the carbohydrates, the complex or the more complex carbohydrates than just sugar.
Yes.
The sugar is just like, you could consider sugar as one or two molecules put together. But most of our energy actually comes from starch, and starch breaks down into sugar. So if you look at a plate of food, most of it is rice, most of it is roti, most of it is bread for most people. And this, of course, is where the sugar is coming from. So we have to consider not just the simple sugars, the sweet stuff, but also the starches that you consume. And again, people with diabetes can have sugar. People with diabetes can have starches. But again, we need to understand how much to have, how to have it. So you need to have it with protein. You need to be able to have it with enough fiber so that the blood sugar doesn't raise too much. And of course, you need to have it in moderation, meaning that you can't have an entire plate of rice in one sitting, because again, you could think of that as an entire plate of sugar that you're consuming, because that's essentially what it's going to turn into when it goes into your blood. So we need to understand that. We need to understand that, of course, these simple pieces of advice may be given, but we need to have persons engage registered dietitians and nutritionists, and we have them all throughout. There are hundreds of these professionals across the islands, and they're ready and they're willing to speak with you.
Yeah. Now, many people believe that the natural or the herbal remedies can cure diabetes. What is your response to that?
Yeah. So first thing I want to talk about is cure, and we don't like to use the word cure because it really isn't a cure. A cure essentially means if it is that you administer the treatment, then there's no other symptoms, there's no other signs, and you could go on and do as you would normally do, and you wouldn't have the consequences of it. And that's not what we have. We have remission, which could happen for type 2 diabetes, not for type 1, however. There's no cure for type 1 as yet. Now, we're very, very close to a cure, which is essentially a pancreatic cell transplant accompanied by some medication, and that's actually very promising. We have some very, very, very promising studies that are going on currently on that. But let's talk about type 2. So there is no cure for type 2 diabetes. You could control type 2 diabetes, which simply means that you could be able to bring down your blood sugars, you could be able to reduce your chances of complications and comorbidities. But that doesn't mean if it is that whatever you're doing, then if you just continue to eat badly or not take the medication afterwards, everything is going to be fine, because you're going to regress into the diabetic state. So we often refer to it as diabetes remission. Now, in Trinidad and Tobago, we have an issue with, and we refer to it as complementary and alternative medicines, because it can be complementary to the normal Western or normal medicine medical treatments that the doctors would give you. But we often have to be very cautious about it because, to be honest, there aren't any strong scientific studies that show any of these supplements or herbal medications or herbal treatments, whatever you want to call it, actually help as much as the medication which is designed and manufactured in a lab. And the reasons for this are manifold, right? So one of the main things is that we don't know about dosage, and dosage could either mean that something is a medication and it helps, or dosage could mean something could be toxic, or dosage could mean something could not even have a role to play. And many times when it is that you're consuming these medications or these supplements, we don't really know what the dosage is or the dosage that you're supposed to take. And because these things often come from natural, or these things often come from the ground or a tree or whatever, every tree or every place that you get it may have different dosages of whatever the active compound is. So we really don't know if in fact, if it is taken, for example, cinnamon, yes, there is some evidence that some cinnamon species or some cinnamon extracts do help with blood sugar control, but there are thousands of species of cinnamon trees, and it may not be all of them having that effect. It may not be all of them having the effect that you want. Nor would it mean that the effect that you want actually is happening in you. This is, of course, not true, or rather, it is true for the medications that are designed, because these medications which are prescribed for you are actually tested on many persons for a long time, and it's shown to work with your diabetes, or for your diabetes and the other complications. So again, what we advise is that yes, if it is that you do want to try these alternative medicines, the best bet is to let your doctor know, because there can be interactions, negative interactions, which means that, you know, these medications may either stop the medication, the actual medication from working, these supplements, or it may not have an effect, or may be toxic. So you should always talk to your doctor about it and say, hey, you know what, here's what I want to use this cinnamon, I want to use this whatever it is, and then get your doctor's opinion. And I think that's what is necessary, and patients need to self-advocate and say, this is what we want, this is what we want to do.
Now, would you say that there are any specific local foods that are misunderstood when it comes to dealing with diabetes management?
Yeah. So I mean, misunderstood simply because some people think that they shouldn't have it all together.
Yes.
Now, we often say that you could have anything, and we don't like to restrict persons from and say, well, you know what, you cannot have doubles, you cannot have cake, or you cannot have you know, the Sunday lunch. And it's not that we're saying that you should not have it. You could have anything, but you need to understand, and I mean, we like to throw around the word moderation, but many people don't understand what it means. And here's why, again, I'm advocating for individualized nutritional counseling, and this is called medical nutrition therapy, where these professionals would sit down with someone, go through some history, go through some of their likes and dislikes, go through some of their barriers, and determine, you know, teach them essentially, and it doesn't really happen in one session, so multiple sessions, teach them essentially how to decide which foods are better for them, or how to design their meal. So for example, to have the Sunday lunch, to have the same meal that anybody else might have as a Sunday lunch, you could turn that into more of a balanced meal by changing up the portions. You could change that by adding extra vegetables. You could be able to do that and be able to modify something so that persons are able to now have the same things they want to have, but of course not have the consequences of it. The same thing for the food that you might find in the street food. Now it's fine to have a doubles in moderation, but of course if you're going to have it every day, then you're going to have consequences, because there's a lot of fats, a lot of sugars, and a lot of salt in it. And of course we do know the consequences of that. So again, I think persons need to understand that yes, you could have anything you want, but there's a limit to how much you could have and how often you could have it. And if it is that you just make some small changes in your diet, you could be able to achieve your goals, whether the goal is diabetes control, diabetes prevention, weight loss. What we always advocate for is small, sustainable changes. Meaning, if you want to make a change in your diet, if you want to make a change in your lifestyle, it shouldn't be anything too drastic at once. And the reason why is because you may want to or may be able to make that change in the short term. But if it is that you only do it for a week and then you rebound and you go back to what you were doing afterwards, then it really has no much of an effect in the long term. But if you do like a small thing, okay, so instead of having a soft drink with my meal every lunchtime, I'm going to have water instead. That small thing can have additive benefits over a period of time. So it's good to understand that.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned before that for both diseases, insulin can be used as a treatment. Now, there's a fear around using insulin in general, and some people would only rely on it as a last resort or even may think that it's dangerous to some extent. Can you just address that, please?
Yeah. So I think the fear really comes from the needles. So you know, insulin has to be injected, and many persons are afraid of needles or to inject themselves with needles. But there are many studies that now show that when persons actually get onto insulin sooner, meaning persons with type 2 diabetes, because type 1 you need insulin from the time you're diagnosed, so this is when we talk about type 2. So there are many studies that now show that persons who get onto insulin sooner actually have better long-term prognoses or less consequences from their diabetes. And it is a myth that if it is that you put onto insulin, you have to stay on insulin forever. No. Once it is the pancreas, you have pancreatic control, you could be able to be weaned off insulin. If, however, and I think the myth actually stems because a lot of people wait very long to actually diminish their pancreatic function, very, very low, meaning they're producing little to no insulin. And here's where you know you really need insulin supplementation.
Yeah.
So yes, I think we need to, and doctors try to do this, encourage persons to be on insulin if it is that it's needed for some period of time, especially when you are trying to make some lifestyle change in tandem. And a lot of people think that taking the medication alone is all you need to do. But I would say the medications, the oral medications, or taking insulin, is really just about 10 to 15% of your diabetes control. The majority of your diabetes control is what you do, the things that you eat, how much you exercise, your lifestyle. And this is important to understand because, again, this is a lifestyle disease. This is what, well, again, type 2. Type 2 diabetes, the cause is, of course, the things that you may have done to lead up to it. Not blaming anyone because, of course, we're oversimplifying it right now.
Right.
Because, of course, you have genetic risk factors, you have environmental risk factors, you have familial risk factors as well, which promote someone or push someone towards that direction. So I don't want people to think that I'm saying that having type 2 diabetes means you cause it. It's not so. Odds are often stacked against you. But there are things that you could do to prevent it, and that's important to note. But again, insulin, we want to encourage persons to speak to your doctor about it, to have that discussion about it if you're unsure. And of course, now there are advances in insulin delivery technologies. So we don't just have needles anymore. We have insulin pens, which of course does have a needle, but it's a little bit easier to use. And we also now have insulin pumps for persons who require insulin consistently.
Yeah.
People with type 1 diabetes, for example.
Now, what are some early signs or warnings that people or persons tend to ignore in the stage?
Yeah. So in terms of diabetes, you really have 4 classic signs, and we need to look out for these 4 classic signs.
Yeah.
Now, the first classic sign is polydipsia. Polydipsia simply means increased thirst. And the reason you're feeling thirstier is because your blood sugars tend to be higher. And your body has a way of self-regulating itself. It's called homeostasis, which is basically when we want to maintain a constant environment in the body. And one of these things we have to maintain is the concentration of water in the blood. So if it is that there's a lot of sugar in the blood, then the body wants to bring up the water concentration because, of course, it has more sugar. which of course makes you feel thirsty. So you drink more water.
Yes.
So that's polydipsia. And of course, if you drink more water, the next thing is, where does the water go? So if you drink a lot of water, then the water has to come out of the body somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to urinate more. So this is called polyuria. So drinking a lot of water, frequent urination, you're going to urinate a lot of the water out. Now, when you're urinating a lot of the water out, what's going to happen is that you are actually, through urination, one of the means of getting the sugar out of the blood, because I mean, a lot of sugar in the blood. One of the means the body has is actually urinating the sugar out. So you actually get sugar in the urine, and the sugar comes out of the urine. Now, as sugar comes out of the urine, that sugar would have normally gone into your cells to give you energy. And because you're now having lower energy levels, because you have less sugar going into the cells, you're going to feel very tired, lethargic, very sluggish. So that's another word, like another symptom. So feeling tired, feeling lazy, and because of course the sugar isn't going into the cells, the body needs energy from somewhere.
Right.
So you're going to use fat reserves, and that fat reserves mean that of course you're going to lose weight. So you have sudden weight loss. So really, those are the four main or classic signs of diabetes: polydipsia, which is excess thirst; polyuria, which is frequent urination; lethargy, meaning very tired; and then sudden weight loss.
Yeah.
So all of that is related to the early classic signs of diabetes. And if you do have those classic signs, and there are many others, they have blurred vision, and some people have scratchiness in the skin. Some people have low blood sugars, and they feel like they have low blood sugars. So if you have any of those symptoms, especially those classic 4, or any 3 of those classic 4, you should be seeing a doctor and getting that blood sugar test.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Now, in a Caribbean context, how do cultural habits contribute to the spread of misinformation about diabetes?
Yeah. So I think a lot of people in the Caribbean now depend on word of mouth, or have always depended on word of mouth, and word of mouth information being spread, whether it be in a village gathering, and now word of mouth means WhatsApp groups and Facebook groups, and sending these messages, and that has evolved into spreading misinformation.
Yeah.
And we need to understand that I mean, we know that it's impossible to eliminate it altogether, because I mean, I see it all of the time. People will see a really nicely made graphic, and now that we are in the age of AI generated images, there are videos that are created, and not just a graphic, a still image, videos that are created. They're really convincing looking things people generate.
Yeah.
For attention most of the times, and of course it's spreading misinformation. So what I would say is that for persons out there, they should depend on reliable sources of information, which include organizations like the Diabetes Association of Trinidad and Tobago, Ministry of Health, PAHO. These are the credible sources of information we would suggest persons actually get information from. And if you're unsure about something, if you see something you're unsure about, you could always reach out to us. You could reach out to us at the Diabetes Association and say, here's what we saw this, is this true? And we'll be able to assist you.
Yeah.
So that's important to note. But of course, we want persons to, of course, understand that while there are many pieces of misinformation out there, your physician really should be, and if you're living with diabetes, your physician should be a #1 source of information. And we always asking persons to self-advocate, which means when you go to the doctor, if it is you have a question, if it is that you're not feeling well, if it is the medication isn't working well for you, we always ask that you say something. Because of course, oftentimes people complain that they go into the health center and the doctor just writes a prescription. But oftentimes, as I said, you have a lot of patients to deal with. And if it is that you don't speak up and say, well, here's what, something is wrong with me, this is happening, I've seen this and I want to know, then this is where, this is the opportunity to ask the doctors, the nurses questions. And of course, join organizations like the Diabetes Association, because we have support groups, we have programs. We want to be starting sessions for adults very soon to be able to educate them on just this thing, diabetes control, and so we have those opportunities for persons out there.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Now, you did touch on it, and it's just to elaborate or to bring it up again. Some people think that only overweight persons can get diabetes, but just to clarify, who exactly is at risk when it comes to diabetes?
No. So again, yes, and that is a myth, simply because even for type 2 diabetes, we tend to say people who are overweight tend to develop type 2 diabetes, which is correct. You do have a higher risk if it is that you're overweight, but oftentimes we don't see where fat is distributed, and it's more important where the fat is distributed than the total fat percentage. Because sometimes people may have fat under the skin and they may look chubby, while around the organs, which is the visceral fat, which is the more dangerous part that results in insulin resistance and high lipids and so on. This is often underlooked or overlooked simply because you can't see it. There are ways to measure where fat is located, and this is important to note. So somebody could actually be looking very lean, but they may be having a lot of fat around the organs, and this is where you have the issues coming up. So no, it's not just because somebody is, or if it is that you think you're lean, doesn't mean that you're excluded from type 2 diabetes. And again, as I said, there are other forms of diabetes as well. So there's type 1 diabetes, which often is characterized by very lean individuals, because of course there's no insulin resistance at play. And there are other minor forms of diabetes. There's actually a newer form of diabetes called type 5 diabetes, which is caused by malnutrition. So that's a type of diabetes that actually was just named last year. And then there are diabetes that can result from a single gene mutation and so on. So there are many, many forms, but again, the key is that everybody is at risk.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. And my last and final question, if there's one myth that you'd like to debunk once and for all, what would it be?
So I think I went through the main ones, right?
Yes.
But I would think a lot of people think that diabetes is inevitable. And a lot of people who have diabetes in their families think, you know what, no matter what I do, I'm going to develop diabetes because it's in my family. And that's something that a lot of people, and they just give up and they say, well, you know what, I'm going to have the soft drink and the doubles and I'm going to eat the cake all the time because no matter what, it's going to happen. But that's not true. We need to understand that whether or not you have diabetes in your family, you will have genetic predisposition. And once you're colored, meaning you're African, you're Indian, you automatically have higher risk because you have the genes for it. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to get it. It just simply means you're at higher risk. And it means that if it is that you do things to keep your weight down, to have a balanced diet, to be active, then you're going to stave off that. Meaning that you either are going to prevent it altogether, reducing your chance of getting it in the long term, or not getting it at all. So again, this is important to understand. It's not inevitable, and there are lots that you could do about it. And the earlier you start, the better.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Dano, for coming on and having this conversation this morning. Is there any final words you'd like to leave with the public where diabetes is concerned, especially the myths and what actually happens and how to deal with it?
So I think for persons out there, if they want to reach out to the Diabetes Association, they could visit us. Our head office is in Shogunas on Success Street. You could also reach us at our phone number 607-3288. That's 607-DATT. You could visit our website, diabetes-tt.org, or you could follow us on social media. Facebook or Instagram or TikTok is out there. Lots of information we put out there, lots of support we do give persons. We have branches throughout the country where you could be able to be engaged in Trinidad and Tobago. So reach out to us, give us a call, send us a message, and we'll be happy to assist.
Thank you again, Dr. Mr. Dano, for sharing on this. It was truly informative, and clearly we did needed to have this conversation to put some light into some of the myths that we continuously would hear on a regular, because like you said, it's word of mouth why most of these myths are around. Guys, we are wrapping up today's show, and as I always say, stay informed, stay safe, stay positive. Up next, we do have Sean Michael Small with Talking Points, so stick around for that, and I'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye.
WESN.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
Hi, I am Emiliana Beechan, and I am a mental health and conflict resolution